is looking to a next Thursday's meeting of the National Executive Committee of the NUM. What happens if they do have a ballot and they vote for a strike? What do you do then?
Well, I think that just prolongs the agony, that's all.
But do you have no concessions to make to them if they do that?
I don't know of anything we can do. We've already offered a wage settlement, which I've got the impression has been very satisfactory to a very large number of our people. In fact, I don't hear that being discussed as an issue anymore.
What do you say to Mr. Scargill's jibe that you're an American well past the miner's retirement age, you shouldn't be here, you have no interest in the industry perhaps in 10 or 20 years? What do you say to that jibe?
I have the advantage of having a few more years on me than Mr. Scargill, and that makes me a little more balanced in my approach to things.
He calls you a butcher.
Well, I think that that's somewhat inappropriate suggestion.
Finally, can I return to the basic question? You're prepared to meet Mr. Scargill, you're prepared to talk to him. What offer can you make to him to end this strike?
We've laid out a program for the conversion of this industry into a high-volume, low-cost business which will enable the miners in the business to earn very substantially improved earnings based on improved productivity, and at the same time make the jobs of other Britons much more secure, because one of the problems that we see is the increasing cost of energy in this country, and we depend heavily on coal for our energy to produce electricity. And under these circumstances, we've got a job to do to help the other people in the country to maintain their jobs. You heard the stories from Mr. Sears and his friends. They're very concerned about being threatened.
Mr. McGregor, that's all we have time for. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now the rest of tonight's news. The pop music millionaire Mr. Richard Branson has come a step closer to his dream of selling flights to America for £99 on his new airline, Virgin Atlantic. The Civil Aviation Authority has approved a licence for the airline to fly to Newark from June, although they said the venture was more than usually risky. The CAA have still to approve the technical and management structure of the airline.
As well as buying the latest hit record, you'll be able to get an air ticket to New York from the Virgin shops in June. And as an opening offer, it'll only cost you £99. The man behind the new cheap transatlantic fares is the multimillionaire owner of the Virgin chain, Richard Branson. And there's no mistaking his enthusiasm for his new role. But how can he be so sure that he will succeed where Sir Freddie Laker failed?
It just seemed that there was a gap in the market, and there was a need, need for another aeroplane to fly this route, and where there's a need, where there's a need, it should be successful.
Will you be sitting in the co-pilot seat?
That's the point. I would love to do that, but I promise you I won't be touching the controls.
The new company, Virgin Atlantic, has hired a jumbo jet for their New York route. It's equipped with the very latest in in-flight entertainment. The ticket price will include a 4-course hot meal with wine and a free baggage allowance.
Come fly with me, we'll fly away.
The launch of the new company in June will herald another Atlantic fare price war. British Caledonian are already saying they might start a limited £50 fare to New York next year. The Virgin Atlantic fare will be launched in mid-June for 2 weeks only, set at £99. In July, it will go up to £119 with another £10 supplement for weekend travel. The cost will drop back to £110 for the autumn. Virgin's main rivals, the American People Express, now charge £102, but that will go up by £8 next month. A British Airways fare to New York now costs £215, but if Virgin Atlantic are successful on the route, that price too could be set to fall.
The Foreign Secretary has been accused of lethargy, America of keeping Britain in the dark. The official report on the Grenada invasion in Part 2. And the communist cowboys, the fastest guns in the East. Join us again.
From Fiat comes a new front runner, the Fiat Regata. Power, elegance, economy. A front-wheel drive car that gives you the refinement, comfort, space, and equipment of a large saloon at a size that makes perfect sense. The luxury family saloon that's designed to perform. Economy, elegance, power. The Fiat expertise that created 1984's Car of the Year has now created a new frontrunner, the Fiat Regata.
My tummy says it's time for tea, so let's down tools for Dairylea. There's enough for him and me, a taste of the country. I like the taste of butter, I like the taste of cheese, I like the taste of milk.
They're all in Dairylea.
Straight from the top, our mums have found there's so much more to spread around. It tastes just great, it's good for you, a taste of the country.
Craft Dairylea. Kids will eat it till the cows come home.
People who think a chicken is just a chicken are the kind of people who think a cook is just a cook. I've probably written more chicken recipes than any other kind. And when I say chicken, I mean grade A chicken. Now, Tesco chickens are all grade A. They're fresh, they're plump, and they're succulent. Just perfect for Mediterranean chicken, Old English chicken pie, coq au vin, chicken à l'américaine, or just plain roast chicken. Of course, when I say plain roast chicken, I mean plain roast chicken with Chinese water chestnuts or truffles or... Hey, I wonder if they have truffles at Tesco.
Happiness is a cigar called Hamlet, the mild cigar.
Harp. Save £100 on heating with check cost. No deposit finance, nothing to pay till September. Ring 464 6575 now.
Commons report on the American invasion of Grenada has criticised Foreign Secretary Sir Geoffrey Howe for what it calls his somewhat lethargic approach to events leading up to the action. The Foreign Affairs Select Committee sets out in detail its version of the events before the invasion in October last year. It says the British government was first aware of a Caribbean country's plan to invade on Saturday, October the 22nd. On the same day, President Reagan approved US involvement. On the Sunday, says the report, there were misleading signals from the Caribbean countries about their intentions. And on the Monday, Sir Geoffrey told the Commons there were no American plans to intervene. But the next day, Tuesday, October the 25th, the invasion started.
The MPs say that in the run-up to the invasion by the Americans with some Caribbean help, the United States deliberately kept Britain in the dark. Perhaps, they say, because the White House, which also kept the American State Department in the dark too, knew that Britain would disapprove anyway. And the committee also says that Sir Paul Scoon, the Governor-General of Grenada, never did make a formal request to Britain for help with the invasion, and that information on how and when he did so to the Americans remains shrouded in mystery. So the committee doesn't specifically blame the Foreign Secretary for telling the House of Commons on the very day before the invasion of Grenada that he knew of no American plans to do so. However, Sir Geoffrey and the Foreign Office are criticised for reacting passively to events rather than taking active steps to find out what was happening. Their reaction was based entirely on the advice received from Washington. Why was no special envoy sent to the Caribbean, the MPs ask. And commenting on Sir Geoffrey's hesitation to embark on telephone calls on an open line and to use normal diplomatic channels instead, the MPs report, this seems to us a somewhat lethargic approach. Speaking for the committee, Mr. Peter Thomas, once a Foreign Office Minister himself, seemed anxious to soften the blows, but also to raise further questions about how the Foreign Office handled what it did know about a possible invasion.
The Foreign Office, I have no doubt, got information on the Saturday, which was the 22nd, and the intervention took place on the early hours of the Tuesday. And so there was the weekend when the Foreign Secretary was away in Athens, weekend when the minister responsible for the Caribbean was also away. And therefore, there is no doubt that there was no sense of urgency. If there had been a sense of urgency, then on the Monday, what the Foreign Secretary would have told the House of Commons would have been very different.
Aren't there rather frightening implications about the Foreign Office not being able to handle something like that over a weekend?
That is what concerned us, because we felt that it wasn't fully appreciated that this was a major matter. And I think that the assessment of the information that was being received from the Caribbean was a wrong assessment on the part of the Foreign Office.
The Foreign Office won't comment publicly on the report until it's formally presented to Parliament. But privately, the Foreign Office rejects the criticisms made of it. Sources at the Foreign Office say that they were in regular touch, not only with the Americans, but with Caribbean governments. And what they were hearing was not talk of invasion, but of the fact that everyone was going to act with extreme caution. Michael Brunson, News at 10, at the Foreign Office.
The British government tonight apologised for what it called apparent undercover police activity by the Royal Ulster Constabulary in the Irish Republic during 1982.